All right. So, welcome everybody. It's exciting to have you here. We're looking forward to showing you what we've been working on for the past couple weeks. So I actually just put a small worksheet in the chat with some prompts. We're going to be doing a Q&A session after the slides. And go ahead and fill them out. If you have questions that you want to ask, go ahead and put them back into chat and we'll address those at the end. So we're excited to get going. Jeremy, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thanks, man. So today we're going to cover innovation team as a service and really innovation in general and how to put together teams that can build truly innovative solutions. So by the end of this presentation of this webinar, you'll have two things. One, you have the recipe for how to assemble your own innovation team if you choose to go that route. Or two, you will have learned about ITAS or Innovation Team as a Service and how you might be able to leverage that in building your own innovative solutions. So to get this started, let's just say it out loud. Innovation is hard. It's hard because innovation is really not for everyone, and it really requires a certain type of thinking. You have to have such a firm belief, an absolute belief in what it is that you're pursuing, that you can overcome some of the challenges that you'll face throughout your innovation journey. And there's been a lot said about this, and there's some great quotes out there. And I picked a couple here that I think help illustrate this thinking. The first one is all about the idea that when you're building something new, something that's never been seen before, you're trying to solve problems that people typically don't know they even have. And so sometimes, as you pursue building those solutions, you might also be pursuing building something that people don't even need. And those oftentimes look very similar. And so part of the trick to being successful in building innovations is to understand and to have processes in place to help identify whether you're on the right path, whether you're building something that people need and they don't know about yet, as opposed to building something that's absolutely a waste of time. The second quote, I think, is also a great quote, famous quote, you've probably seen it. And that is that to build new things, you have to change your thinking, right? This notion that the thinking that got us to the problems we have today or got us to the state that we're in today with our product or service is not the same thinking that's going to get you to the next level. And so innovation demands enough flexibility that you can change your perspective and start to think differently about your problem or the market that you're targeting. So flat out, innovation is hard regardless of which way you approach it. So what do companies do? What do teams typically do to try to address this? Part of the challenge is that you're trying to typically run a business, and you want to remain competitive. And the market is fast-paced nowadays. And so it demands that you look for ways to innovate. And so one of the strategies is, let's just throw more bodies at the problem, right? Let's outsource this innovation by hiring a couple of experts, augmenting our team. And typically what you end up with is a scenario where the sum of the whole does not equal the parts. And I like this analogy that, hey, there are no optional parts in an engine. And a typical operational team in an organization is designed to move very quickly, very efficiently down a particular path. And innovation is by its nature an exploration, right? It's going, off of that path and investigating, hey, what's going on down there, down in the ravine, or, what's going on around the bend. And so that requires a different kind of team. And so by trying to parcel out part of that effort or trying to divert part of your operational team to go explore that, inevitably you're gonna pay a cost, right? And oftentimes those people aren't the best suited to solve that kind of problem. So innovation is a team sport, and it does require a team with all of the right elements in place. So that is the solution. It's having an innovation team. And so what does it take to build an innovation team? What are some of the key qualities? We've outlined some of them here. You want a team that's excellent collaborating and that is action oriented. And collaboration in the sense that there has to be a healthy tension in the way that people think and in the way that they approach problems. If there's too much complacency or there's certain ideas that overtake the conversation, inevitably you're going to limit the exploration space. So that's super critical. Number two, it's having a culture of innovation. And most organizations don't have that, right? And it's not necessarily a fault. When you're building an operational team, you want to focus perhaps on product or customer. Innovation demands that you focus and value above all learning. And learning requires risk, right? Going back to the opener of this, that, you know, one of the reasons that innovation is hard is that it does demand taking risks, and typically risks beyond what your average team member is willing to take. So you have to have a team that is cultured in the context of innovation. The next one is skilled at working with open-ended problems. And oftentimes open-ended problems can, you know, lead to these infinite iterations and spiraling that lead nowhere. And so teams that are skilled at doing this well understand, you know, that there is a balance between thinking broadly, having a broad view, but also bring in some discipline and rigor to that process, and to clearly defining hypotheses and then building the necessary experiments to determine, hey, is this a promising route, right? So it does require both of those in order to be effective. The next one is not constrained by organizational biases. So again, we talked about this earlier. Being in an organization, you're focused mainly on operational efficiencies, and this is a very different kind of thinking. Which brings me to holistic thinkers, right? An innovation team needs to think holistically and be problem solvers. Let's expand on that a bit. So holistic thinkers and problem solvers, at least in our team, and I think if you look around, most teams that are successful at innovation, they encompass all of the areas that are outlined in the graphic on the right. They're teams that have people with an artistic background, science, engineering, and design. And this is because by having all of these elements, you're able to approach a problem from all of these different perspectives. Art allows you to look at problems from different ways, and that impacts the second bullet here, ideation, right? When you have that unbridled artistic perspective, it lets you look at a problem in ways that you've never looked at before. And this is a quote that I love, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So those problems that may have seemed insurmountable before all of a sudden become tractable, because you're just looking at it from that different perspective. However, implementation, you know, once you have an idea, and value creation as well, demand the rigors and disciplines of science and engineering. So again, there's that balance, and having teams that can really address all of these aspects is super critical. The last part of building a successful holistic thinking team is looking at both the technology and the business model. You need to address both. You can't just focus on tech and then think about the business later. They have to evolve hand in hand. So as you start to understand needs, you start to build your business value, your value proposition, and then that guides your exploration of the solution space. So with that, what does that look like as far as the process goes? So we like to call this a breakthrough design process. Ultimately, innovations are about breakthroughs, about, you know, doing something that's never been done before. And so it does require some key elements. One is searching for the opportunity. And so that happens during our discovery part of our process, where you're looking for that need. And there's a significant emphasis in talking to people, understanding the needs that are in the market. A lot of conversations go into that. yes, some research, but a lot of it is actually getting out there and talking to people and understanding what their needs are. From that, you're going to come up with some opportunities, like an opportunity list. The next thing you're going to want to do is to start to build and test some of these hypothetical solutions to satisfy those opportunities. And those might be pretty simple things like just a simple landing page that might determine whether or not there's some market interest for that product or service. Or you might go as far as actually building a prototype. If it's a physical item, maybe you 3D print some aspects of the product. If it's software or mobile app, you might build a simple prototype of that, etc. Once you have that and you've tested it, out of that, you're going to end up with some good candidates. And what you're going to want to do is pick one or two of those candidates that you want to scale. And that's really that's where the real breakthrough opportunity comes to the surface. If you can find a solution that satisfies an open need in the market and you're able to successfully scale it and scale its associated business model, now you have a breakthrough opportunity. And then the last phase is sustaining, right? At that point, you're growing the product, you're growing the service, you're sustaining and you're supporting whatever that winning solution is. So these are the basic building blocks. Obviously, we could talk for hours about all of, each of these slides and perhaps even some of these bullets. But with this, I feel like it gives anyone that's thinking about going down this path of building something innovative, what are some of the essential components that you're going to need? So that brings us to section 2, which is ITAS and the advantages of basically hiring a team that can help you address this problem. So experience less brain drain. So pretty much all founders, anyone, whether it's an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur in an established organization that is looking to build something new, at some point in their journey, they're going to experience brain drain. They're trying to do it all, right? They're passionate about the idea. They're, dedicating all of their time and resources to it. However, if you, at the same time, you're still trying to run a business and there's an operational element, you can't do it all. So an ITAS team can allow the entrepreneur or the intrapreneur to focus on whatever it is that they do best, whether it's an operational component or in the context of their new product development. Maybe they are the creative thinker or maybe they are the analytical thinker. And so an ITAS team can help complement, those gaps that they might have. So again, it's about, avoiding that brain drain and allowing the entrepreneur to be able to continue to operate effectively. The second element and benefit of working with a team that already has the framework and the processes in place to innovate is faster speed to market. Pretty much every opportunity, once you discover it, there is a window of opportunity to bring that product to market and be successful. So short-circuiting as much of the team building process as possible is critical. It doesn't matter, what kind of team you're building. Every team is going to go through, that forming, storming, norming, performing cycle, and that takes time, right? And it's human nature. So by engaging with a team that's already been through that and now simply has to align and adapt to this particular needs of an organization, you can short circuit a lot of this cycle time. The other benefit of doing this as well is that you're able to maintain your in-house teams focused on productivity rather than being distracted with working on projects that they're typically not, geared for. Which brings me to this slide, which is all about maintaining healthier, more productive employees. Yes, it's good to stretch people beyond, their typical day-to-day. However, sometimes that can lead to unnecessary stress, and that can have an impact on their productivity, them as an individual, et cetera. So, if you are building an in-house team, you do want to pretty much, build a dedicated set of resources to go do this kind of work. They're going to need special training. They're going to have to kind of create their own process to do this. And that's going to require a significant amount of focus. It's not, not something you can easily do by just moonlighting. So again, if you engage with a team that already has the resources, you can avoid a lot of the stress and pain for your employees and your team members. And I think this is there's three more. Flexibility. So again, just being able to explore more of that space, that solution space, by having a team that can dedicate more of their time and resource to it, super critical. It also allows you to, as you're executing your operational model, as an opportunity comes about, as you discover an opportunity, you can have a resource in place that can very quickly go evaluate that opportunity and see if it's something worth pursuing further. Diverse talents, talked about this a little bit earlier. The whole idea that an innovative team requires these different perspectives, everything from art to science, engineering, and design. You really need that diverse thinking. Otherwise, you're really going to limit the exploration space. And, if you don't have the rigors of the science and engineering, you might expend a lot of time and energy pursuing hypotheses, ideas that really are non-starters. So having a team that has that diverse background is super critical to the success. So if you are building an in-house solution, make sure that you bring the right kind of resources to the team. That's essentially the bottom line here. Augmented innovation, I'm going to skip this. And that brings me to the conclusion for today. We've only got a few minutes left. So really, whether your goal is to build your own in-house team, hopefully I've given you the beginnings of a recipe to do that. Or if your goal is to quickly start developing innovation or breakthrough, we're here to help, right? That's what we love to do as a team at Phiquest. Our focus is on helping entrepreneurs pursue their ideas, their dreams, and really achieve the next level of breakthrough. And so whatever path you choose in terms of building your next product or service, we'd love to work with you and partner with you in that path. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Jay so we can do questions.
So Jeremy, we have a question in chat. How does the pivot concept complicate the innovation team process?
How does the pivot concept complicate the innovation team process? Is that the question?
That is the question, yes.
Let me open up the chat so I can read it. Okay. Yeah, so pivot is part of the process. Pivot is not necessarily a complication, but it's truly built into the way that you build an innovation. You have to expect and assume that pivots will happen. And so that idea of exploring a hypothesis, determining, hey, we're not getting the results that we expected, our assumptions are not valid, and then being prepared to quote unquote pivot or pursue a slightly different solution has to be part of it. So I don't see it as a complication, but rather as an essential element of building innovative solutions. I hope that's a satisfactory response, or I'm happy to expand on it further if need be.
And then I do have another question here. What kind of process do you use to bring the ITAS into an organization?
Yeah, so just like any onboarding process, we go through first understanding needs, clearly understanding what the needs are. There's not always a perfect fit. So it may not be, right? Like our team is not suited for every single kind of product. For example, we don't do, medical products. It's not in our bailiwick. So it always starts with an understanding, clear understanding of what the needs of the organization are. And then from that, if it looks like we're going to be a good fit, we then come up with a working model or an engagement model that will satisfy those needs of the organization. And typically the way that looks is an engagement that is a month-to-month engagement where a team is provided as a service for a monthly fee. And so within that fee and scope of work, we're able to essentially explore that entire process I described. So typically, to get to an MVP, you're looking at a minimum, I'd say a minimum of 4 months to produce something, to explore some options, look for need, and then produce your first prototype. Anything shorter than that, I'm not saying it's not possible, but so you're looking at about a minimum 4-month engagement.
Okay, that's all the questions we have. Unless anybody else wants to jump in, I can open it up for voice questions if you guys feel like doing that as well. Looks like we have, oh, well, we're out of time. We could do one more, but
okay.
Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, let's wrap it up then. So it's been great having you guys. We will be posting this on LinkedIn and possibly YouTube in the next coming days in case there is any information you want to refer back to. On behalf of the team at Phiquest, I'd like to say thanks for attending.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll definitely be following up with everyone to collect some feedback on how this went. Obviously, we had some technical challenges up front, which we'll address, but we'd love to get everyone's feedback. Thanks a lot.